just don't know. I don't know, don't know, don't know, don't know, just don't. So like I said, after that particular shift at Taco Bell that day, I became a professional. And it was easy after that debacle to adjust to the rush, the flow, and the stress of working at Taco Bell. Remember, this was the year 2000. I was 17. And like I mentioned before, Robert, the Latino manager, was the one that trained me that particular day when Patty left he and I in the store alone. After that, we became best of buddies. I remember, in fact, he would go to our head manager whenever he looked at the shift and he was working and I wasn't on the shift with him. He'd request that changes be made because he didn't want to work with anybody except me after this. And I felt proud about that. That was something of an accomplishment to me because it showed that somebody relied on me. It showed that somebody trusted me to be able to handle the hectic schedule, the hectic, stressful atmosphere of working, providing people their meals at Taco Bell. And this really endeared our hearts to one another, Robert and I, the Latino manager. I remember one particular Friday, I think if I can remember correctly, because remember, this has been 21 years ago, 22 years ago. We're in the year 2022. I needed to cash my check. Now, I had just gotten my driver's permit at age 17 in that year, the year 2000. And I was confident in my driving skills, although I didn't have a car and I didn't have much practice, but I am a sponge, man. I absorb my atmosphere. I'm always paying attention. I'm always watching my mom and dad when they're driving. We took a whole lot of vacations and trips as I was a kid to America from the Bahamas. And, you know, it would be the whole family. My mother, my dad, my 4 sisters, all of my uncles and aunts on my mother's side, their children, my grandparents on my mother's side, and we'd be driving in a 20-passenger van throughout the United States. I mean, this was almost an every summer ordeal. So I paid attention. I knew that I was confident in my skills. So I go to Robert, my manager at Taco Bell, my friend at this point, and I say to him, man, I need to cash my check, bro. Would you be willing to allow me to use your truck? Now, Robert had a 1990 maybe, model Ford Bronco. You see, Ford just brought the new Bronco back out about a year or so ago. Well, this was the old primitive Broncos. You remember how they looked. There was a small little compact SUV. It got good gas mileage. Well, that's what he drove. And Robert was proud of this car. How did I know that? Whenever he would come to work, he would back that truck up in a parking spot where he could see the front end of his vehicle right outside the drive-through window where his station was. Usually when Robert worked, that was his station, the drive-through window. He'd have the headset on. He'd be the one ordering or helping the customer in the drive-through to order their food, place their order, etc. So it would be parked right out the window where he's sitting in the drive-through, and he can see his truck right there. I'll never forget it. And so he looks at me and he's like, Andre, can you drive? And of course, I'm a cocky 17-year-old. I'm like, yeah, man, I got you. I can drive, man. I'm good. Trust me. And he looks at me with that rock queer eye, you know. You remember the rock eye used to look at you with that one eyebrow raised and the other eyebrow lowered. Well, he looked at me like that and he was like, I'm going to trust you, Andre. I'm going to let you drive my truck. Now, the bank that issued our checks was, oh boy, what's the name of that bank? I'm forgetting the name of that bank. Anyway, it may come to me later. It was the financial institution that was written onto the check, so I can go there and cash my check, at least at that time, for free. And there was one about a mile, maybe a mile and a half up Hillsborough, which was the main strip through Deerfield Beach where we were working and living at. So I got in this truck, put on my seatbelt, adjusted my mirrors because Robert was a short little old thing. I'm 6'4", 6'5". Robert was maybe 5'2", 5'3". So I had to adjust the seats and the mirrors and make sure that I could see out of all of the mirrors for safety purposes, right? I mean, I had learned at least that much. And so getting on Hillsborough. Now, Hillsborough is a pretty busy street. Hillsborough wasn't your run-of-the-mill intersection. It wasn't one of those situations where you could just get on it, merge onto it without being strictly attentive to the flow of traffic, because it was like a 3-lane highway, traffic going north and southbound, and you had to be aware. You had to be paying attention. So I merged onto Hillsborough, got both hands on the wheel like I'm supposed to, and I turned on my signal. Well, the drive to the bank was flawless. I mean, I was actually proud of myself for the way that I handled it once I had finally gotten to the bank. But that's where the story turns. And when I got to the bank, I turned into the parking lot, and there was a clear parking space, but it was right there in a part where you would have to park in front of a lamp post that was about 30 feet tall, and it had the cement block around the base of the lamp post, but you could still park there. And so I'm turning in slowly, both hands still on the wheel. I'm proud of myself. I'm just jiggy. Man, I pull into that parking spot, and when I thought I had hit the brakes to slow down, I had accidentally tapped the gas. Oh my goodness. Man, it was like I was trying to climb up that cement block. Boom! I just ran straight into it. And I'm just sitting there like, oh no. Oh no. Oh no, Robert's gonna kill me. Now, here I am excited. I had made it to the bank. I had gotten there safely, got my little paycheck. I say little paycheck. At 17, I was maybe working 25 hours a week. So it was never really more than $150, $200 max. But all that excitement from getting there quickly and safely, efficiently, and having my check, it escaped me. And here now I'm stressed. I get out the truck, I get out the Bronco, and I'm looking at the bumper, the front bumper of the Bronco. And of course, it's just a flat frame, the metal frame on the front of that Bronco. And dead smack in the middle where I had hit that cement block around that light post, it was bumped in like a triangle. I was like, oh man. And to make matters worse, you remember that Robert would always back his truck in at the job where he could see the front end of his truck. And he was specific. When I had left to go to the bank, the last thing he told me was, park it like you met it when you get back. Man, I was sick, bro. I was sick. I went into that bank, Bank of America. I told you I'd remember it. Bank of America. I walked in that bank with my head down like I had just lost my best friend. And I walk up to the teller. I give the teller the check after I had endorsed it, and she looks up at me, and I ain't even making eye contact. I'm just down in the pits because I'm trying to figure out how am I going to tell Robert what just happened. I mean, I'm trying to figure it out. Like, dude, I can't tell him this. Now, although Robert was 5'1", 5'2", I'm 6'4", 6'5", Robert was stacked, man. I'm telling you, this cat, he was a big dude. And, you know the rumors you hear about Latino folks sometimes, man, they'll chop you up. They'll stab you. They'll, with no hesitation, like, man, not that they're violent people, but if you get in their way or you harm them or their family or you mistreat something of theirs, then, man, you could expect to be beat down. And so all this stuff, man, I was really just going over in my head like, how on earth did I find myself in this predicament? I got my check cashed and put my money in my wallet thinking, well, this is gone because when I tell him, he's going to want this money. And I get back in the truck and I back out of the parking spot. I mean, I'm hot right now at this point, just trying to figure out how on earth did I make this mistake. And as I'm pulling out, I merge back onto Hillsborough. This time I'm going south, back towards Taco Bell. And, I'm in my feelings completely, just trying to figure it out, trying to gauge what I'm going to do. And just like the trip onto the way to the bank, I was safe, merging and switching lanes. All of that went well the first time and went well the second time. And about the time I got to the light to make that left turn into the Taco Bell parking lot, I had made up my mind I wasn't going to tell Robert nothing. I pulled up in that parking lot. I'm remembering echoed in my voice, or rather in my thoughts, what he had asked of me, and that was to park the truck in reverse in the parking spot just where he had left it, just how he had left it. But at this point, I'm discarding all of that because I knew quickly him working in the drive-through window and me backing it in that spot no more than 5 feet away from where he's working, he's going to clearly see that. Now, of course, if he's an attentive guy, he's going to inspect his car anyway after I've driven it. But I'm taking my chances that at least if he does choke me out and stab me with a spatula on Taco Bell's property, that he'll avoid at least doing that then and maybe come back the next day and do it later. I didn't want to die that day. So I did not back it in. I just parked in straight. And immediately he knew something was up. And he looked at me and he said, "Is everything all right?" And I looked back at Robert. I said, "Yeah, everything's good." You know, with with fear in my voice. And 2 weeks go by. Robert's don't say nothing to me about this truck. In fact, the very next shift that we work together, he pulls the truck in and backs it in like he always does. And the minute I look out that window, I clearly see that dent in the bumper. And I'm thinking to myself, I know he's had to see this by now. Why hadn't he said nothing? I mean, it's confusing the mess out of me. But Robert was playing coy, if you will. And I think too, truly God had given me favor with Robert. Robert was calm enough to think about the situation fully. Hey man, I did let this young man use my car. He's 17. I should not have trusted my first judgment. Perhaps these were his thoughts. Maybe I should not have allowed him to do it. I'm not going to hold him fully responsible. Now, I will find out later, as you, what happens in our next episode when he finally does confront me about the dent on his truck. But up to this point, like I said, 2 weeks had gone by and he hadn't mentioned anything to me. And I was very grateful, thinking that I had gotten away with it. But again, tune in next time for another episode of You Don't Know Wednesday, which we'll meet again here next week Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time for the remainder of our story.